Hey guys, M2 Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, the Retro X-Men Warlord Professor X that is exclusive to Walmart. So here from the Uncanny X-Men number 275, we have Professor X. Now on the cover of that issue, along with the whole blue and yellow team, we had Warlord. Now, the initial cover had a different look for Warlord, but from the pages, this is how he looks, from my understanding of it. You can see updated images like of that cover with him in this look, but that's what this figure is based on. The figure is going to be very basic, I think, but it might be decent. The cloth cape is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but that Professor X head sculpt does look really good. The helmeted head sculpt for Warlord looks pretty good. But let's see how the figure is. Looking at the card, we see here it says shi'ar armor, Warlord Professor X. Looking at the back of the package, we see the figure, no gimmick to show since he doesn't have, well, he does have swappable hands and a head sculpt. But the bio reads, when the Starjammers and the X-Men join forces to return the shi'ar throne back to its rightful leader, they're guided by her mysterious warlord who reveals himself to be Professor Charles Xavier. So there we go. Let's go ahead and get Professor X out of the package. Okay, so here we have the Warlord Professor X Charles Xavier figure out of the package, and this one is a super basic one. I think there's a couple of things that they could have done differently to make this one a little bit better. But even looking through Uncanny X-Men issue numbers 275 to kind of see him in action, and to be honest, you don't get a lot of really good looks at him in this look. I mean, there's a couple of things, but with the silver, you know, it should all be like shiny metal, and then the blue paint that you see on top of it, it should be kind of like a glow effect or like a cell shading type of effect, so you have that there. And then his body is pretty basic. It's just kind of all black, and then the blue lines. Now, those blue lines are kind of, in the artwork, they look glowing. On the figure, they're just blue lines. They didn't give it a little bit of a glow effect, and I think they could have done like a spray gradient type thing. They've done that in the past on other figures to help give it that glow. So if it did kind of more of a white line with a little bit of this blue like gradient along the sides to help give it that glow look, they could have done that. They've done that on other things before, and I think it works out well. On this figure, it looks very dull and basic. So there's that. The figure, the body itself, it's the Spider-Man 2099 body, but it is pinless. So that is good. It is a good body mold. I will always, be a fan of this body mold, even though we've seen it a million times. I still think it is a really good one. But again, the figure is still pretty basic. The Charles Xavier head sculpt, really, really good. An additional figure to have with your shi'ar Empire and your Starjammers and things like that. That is good. I didn't bring out any of the Starjammers figures. I just wanted to focus on Lilandra and the X-Men 275 cover, so we can kind of focus on that. But let's go ahead and get in for the closer looks at Professor X Warlord. All right, up close look. Look at that Charles Xavier head. He's got a nice smile there. He's got his big-ass eyebrows. Like, that looks good. I will do a comparison with the previous Charles Xavier figures that we've gotten by Hasbro. I think we've gotten 2 of them. Well, I didn't bring out any of the movie ones. But we got the one with the hover chair, and then we've got the Krakoa one. So we will take a look at that. That one was super basic also. What is it about Charles Xavier? And I guess the hover chair one too. He's just in a green suit. Anyway, this is a good looking head sculpt. Nice digital print on there. Came out really good looking there. The helmeted look obviously is what this one would be more known for, and kind of the focus and attention there. That looks pretty good. The blue paint that they add on the metal pieces to kind of give it that cell shade glow look, it is like that in the comic. I don't think it's terrible, but I also don't think it's the greatest, because the plastic, if they could have used a shinier plastic, or if they would have just painted it silver, I think that would have been better. I could have done without the cell shading if it was like a true silver, but it's not. It's just kind of one of those things. And the shapes of it are weird. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be, I mean, I'd have to kind of go through the artwork and kind of look. I mean, we do have some kind of swirls in there. I guess it just throws me off a little bit. It's not terrible, but it's also not really my favorite. Looking at the rest of the figure, again, just these blue lines. If they would have done a gradient like white or light blue, white lines with gradient like light blue, like the spray look, to kind of give it that glow look, I think that would have been nice. As it stands now, they're just blue lines. It's not terrible. It is accurate. Technically, yes, but again, I think it would have looked better if it had kind of the glow look that they actually kind of did in the comics there. He's just kind of got whited out eyes in there, and there we have it. Now, the wrinkles in the cape are really nice, actually. Like, looking at these wrinkles here, that's exactly how the cape actually would be. So that looks very realistic and looks good. It is a little bit of a softer cape. It's not super... oh, you know what? Did we actually get some paint in there? Look at that. There is some paint in the folds there, it looks like. Right? I'm not going crazy. You see that? You see that, right? We actually got some paint in there. How about that? We get anything on the inside? Nope, not at all. But on the outside, we get some paint on those folds. Hey, not too shabby, actually. But it's still just a rubber cape. It is thin, yes. Like, Lilandra has a super thick one, right? It feels harder. Xavier's feels a little bit softer. I mean, you're not going to form it around and shape it any which way, but it doesn't feel as heavy. So there is that. Forgot to mention, that's also removable. Like, it just sits over his neck. There's nothing going on there. Look at the figure, just all black with some blue lines. And again, it just sits over there, drapes over his shoulders. It does drape over nicely to where, you know, it doesn't move around like crazy. You don't have to peg it into its back. So it holds up pretty well. But yeah, that's it. So now let's go ahead and check out the articulation. Okay, so Warlord, Charles Xavier, he can't look up with the helmet on because the cape does get in the way. He can look down. If we pop that head off and put the Professor X head on there, he, oops, kind of pulled it off that ball peg. He can look up somewhat. The skin tone painted over the black looks okay, but the black you could see kind of bleeding through a little bit. He can look down that much there, which is good. Now, with the cape on, he can still get his shoulder out. You're not really going to be able to do the full rotation because you have the collar piece in there, so just be aware of that. The butterfly joint becomes ineffective with the cape because, you know, it's kind of in the way. I mean, you can move that arm back a little bit, but again, a little ineffective. But for the forward crossbody, you can get some use out of that. You got the upper bicep swivel in there. Double jointed pinless elbow. This, again, is the Spider-Man 2099 body mold, but the arms and legs are updated to be pinless, but they are essentially the same. So double joint elbow, wrist swivel, and they do hinge, standard horizontal hinge on the open hands as well as the fists that he comes with. There, we got the ab crunch on him, so crunch forward is that far there, crunch back is like so, but the cape gets in the way. You got the waist swivel in there, legs go out that far apart. He can kick forward that far there, leg doesn't really go back. You got the upper thigh cut in there, and there we go. Gotta break it free a little bit. So upper thigh cut in there, double jointed pinless knee, beautiful bend at the knee. There you got the calf swivel, mid calf, foot hinges all the way down. You get some hinge up, ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So I predict this figure could be picked up. Like, if a lot of people don't grab it, which I think a lot of people may not, I think this would be good custom fodder, right? Because there's only limited paint and it just has kind of a base black body. So I see this being picked up for that quite a bit. Now, if it were the colors of the cover, I think it would stand out a little bit more because they're brighter colors. But again, this is accurate to what is inside those comic panels from issue 275. Okay, so next to his beloved, we have Charles Xavier here with Queen Lilandra, and as you can see with the shi'ar inspiration in his suit, the capes are the same blue, which is good. It is softer on Professor X. The silver looks better on Lilandra because I think she has larger portions of that silver, whereas the Professor X, just smaller pieces. It just doesn't look, it looks a little bit more dull. It doesn't look as bright and shiny as Lilandra does. Unfortunately, by having these side by side together, they look good. Oh, I almost forgot. I wrapped up reviewing everything. Oh my god, I didn't show the comparisons with the other Charles Xavier figures. So we have a couple of them. We have the hover chair one, which is the most popular. GameStop screwed over a bunch of people by accidentally listing it, giving people's hopes up that a pre-order and a new stock was coming of those Charles Xaviers, and then sent everybody cancellations after multiple charges and all this and that. So that really sucked. I was one of them, but I didn't really need another one. I just saw that it became available again, so I put in an order. Anyway, if you guys were screwed out of that, let me know down in the comments below, because I'm curious, because I think a bunch of people got upset by it, rightfully so, because they thought they were going to get a hard-to-get figure that they really wanted, that they, unfortunately missed out on before. They weren't collecting at the time. It would have been awesome to get. Anyway, here, Charles Xavier. So we have these three different Charles Xavier figures. We had MCU version that had the Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy head sculpts. I almost said Patrick McAvoy. But here we have the new one. So this is the Krakoa one, which was atrocious because it's just a pizza Spider-Man body all blacked out with a different head sculpt on there. Would have been good for custom fodder at the time, but we got so much better body molds now. Hover chair one there. Here, this one, I will get a closer look to compare this Charles Xavier head sculpt with the one that we came with now. And the one now is so much nicer than this one. Not that this one was bad by any means. As you can see there, the digital print goes a long way in making a difference in there. Like, we didn't even get painted lips or anything like there. So they're just, you know, much more realistic looking, you know, when we have it this way. Now, if we want to swap heads, we can do that. Let's pop that head on there. Let's pop this head there. Let's do that. And you can have a smiling Xavier, and that looks pretty good. The skin tones aren't a perfect match, but I think it's close enough. And that works out well. Now, can you pop this head on there? I'm sure you could, but it's not. Oh, maybe you can't. It was a tight fit. And you can do that if you wanted to. Skin tones, again, don't match. But there we go. So you can see the difference. We do get some still big-ass eyebrows. But, you know, with the photo real print, just looks, you know, better. Okay, so here's kind of my recreation of the cover of X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 275. It's kind of difficult. Like, if you zoom out, it's not really looking good. I got them on stands and whatnot to kind of show different elevations or whatever. But you know what? Having them look together looks good. But that, like, the gold and, like, reddish color that is from the artwork would be kind of cool. It's like a pink. That would look kind of cool, but, you know, again, I've seen some images updated to kind of reflect the look that he has actually in the panels themselves. I really liked these figures. I mean, Jubilee was a little bit of a disappointment, but the rest of the figures, they all look really good when you have them together, and now adding in the Professor X Warlord kind of completes it a little bit. But you guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this Professor X Warlord figure? Is it one that you've picked up from Walmart? I believe it might be in stock right now. I'll have a link in the video description below in case it is. I got two of them, of course, you know, one to hang on the wall and then one to open and review for you guys. One to rock, one to sock, right? But you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, it's a pretty basic figure. I think it serves its purpose fairly well. I think the paint could be applied a little bit better to give it more of a glow effect. And I think a lot of customizers are going to pick it up for the body because it's going to be, you know, it's pinless. You can easily paint it because there's not a whole lot of color to it. But again, you guys give me your thoughts down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.